started flower gardening about 13 years ago. And then about 3 years ago, I guess it was the beginning of this sort of food movement, this obsession with food. And you know, I had been a part of a group that had built a community garden years ago, but I'd never really had property myself. And then I started just getting to think about it and going, well, actually, I actually have a lot of property, and I just need to kind of reinvent the way I do it. And the whole objective for me became, how could I create more food? And I had been kind of thinking, what if we built a deck? What if we put a garden up there? What if we did a green roof? And then it was around the same time that the recycling bins, that the Toronto system changed from the little green bins to the big giant ones. And everybody had all these leftover containers, and at my core, I just hate waste. And from that moment, I picked up as many of the recycling bins as I could, and I filled them up with soil, and I just started growing whatever I could find. And that was my first year. I was basically harvesting recycling bins, and I just started to throw stuff in. And I had mixed success. I discovered that year that, in fact, you do have to put holes in containers. The drainage really matters. So that was a big one. That was my big lesson that year. I now have over 110 containers on that deck. My tomatoes were of mixed success this year, but my peppers made up for it. I love making things with my hands. You know, my work in my professional life is very cerebral, and so there's something deeply fulfilling for me to make something, and to take on a project at the beginning of a day and to have that project come to a close at the end of the day. This is what I've harvested from my own trash cans. One of the ingredients is the tomatoes, and in order for the tomatoes to go into the recipe, you need to peel them, and it is a tedious process of dumping the tomatoes into boiling water and then being able to take the tomatoes out of the boiling water and plunge them into freezing cold water, which causes a contraction of the skin and releases the skin from the tomato, and you only work with the tomato after it's been skinned. We become disconnected from the means of production, and I worry. I guess I worry about us as a society. This question of how are we encouraging self-sufficiency? How are we learning some of the tools for survival? And I don't mean this in a kind of depressing kind of way. I just think that there's something about getting connected to what's important. You know, and to me, what's important, the basics are food and shelter and love. And to me, for me, canning and storing food and growing things in my garden is it connects me back to the land and to the ground and to the means of production. And even in downtown Toronto, I have this opportunity to stay connected to what's important, to what's real, and it keeps me. I think it makes me a more authentic human being. I just love it, you know. I love creating things, and I love that sense of fulfillment. All right, look at that. Let's get that baby going.
It smells amazing.
Oh yeah, that's actually really tasty. And I'm even entertained by the irony of the fact that I'll spend, 8 to 10 hours stewing tomatoes that I could get at the grocery store for $1.29. Even the irony is fun. this goes back to the land. This gets turned into, I don't know if you can see that, but that's the kind of beautiful compost which I'll harvest in a couple of weeks.
Gorgeous.
And that'll go onto my winter bed. Simple, it's full circle.